Whispers of the Old Lighthouse. On the edge of a small coastal town stood an old lighthouse. It had not been used for many years. The paint was peeling, the windows were dusty, and the door was locked with heavy chains. Children from the town often told stories about it. They said the lighthouse was haunted. Some claimed they had seen strange lights inside, even though no one had lived there for decades. Others said they had heard whispers carried by the sea breeze. Ethan, a young man of 20, returned to this town after many years. He had spent his childhood summers here, playing on the beach and watching the lighthouse from a distance. Now, after the death of his grandmother, he had come back to take care of her small house near the shore. The town felt smaller than he remembered, and the lighthouse seemed even taller and lonelier. On his first evening, Ethan walked by the coast. The sun was sinking into the sea, painting the sky with orange and purple. He stopped and stared at the lighthouse. For a moment, he thought he saw a faint glow behind one of the broken windows. For a moment, he thought he saw a faint glow behind one of the broken windows. He shook his head and told himself it must be a reflection of the sunset. The next day, Ethan went to the town's grocery store. The shopkeeper, Mrs. Hughes, was an old woman with sharp eyes. When she saw Ethan, she smiled sadly. "You must be Margaret's grandson," she said. "Your grandmother was a kind woman. I'm sorry for your loss." "Thank you," Ethan replied. After a short pause, he asked, "Can you tell me about the lighthouse? Does anyone ever go there?" Mrs. Hughes frowned. "That place. It's been empty since the accident, almost 30 years ago. People stay away. It's better that way." "What accident?" Ethan asked. She shook her head. "It's not a story for now. Just be careful at night. The sea has a way of keeping secrets." Ethan left the shop, more curious than before. That night, as he sat by the window in his grandmother's house, he heard something unusual. It was a faint sound, like a whisper carried by the wind. He leaned closer. The sound seemed to come from the direction of the lighthouse. His heart beat faster. Was it the wind, or was someone really whispering? The following evening, Ethan decided to investigate. Armed with only a flashlight, he walked along the beach toward the lighthouse. The moon was high, and the waves were restless, breaking loudly against the rocks. When he reached the tall iron gate, he saw the chains were still there, rusted but strong. Yet strangely, the gate itself stood slightly open, just wide enough for a person to slip through. Ethan hesitated, then stepped inside. The air felt colder, as if the place was breathing its own atmosphere. He climbed the stone steps leading to the lighthouse door. To his surprise, the chains were broken, as if someone had cut them recently. He pushed the heavy door, and it creaked open. Inside, dust floated in the beam of his flashlight. The circular room was filled with old furniture, broken tools, and pieces of rope. He climbed the spiral staircase, his steps echoing against the stone walls. Halfway up, he stopped. He heard it again, the whisper. It was soft, almost like a sigh, but it was clear. "Help me." Ethan froze. His flashlight shook in his hand. The sound had not come from above, but from somewhere below. He climbed down quickly and searched the ground floor. In one corner, under a pile of boards, he found a trapdoor. With some effort, he pulled it open. A narrow passage led down into darkness. He swallowed hard, then pointed his flashlight into the tunnel and descended. The underground chamber was damp and cold. The walls were made of rough stone, and water dripped from the ceiling. In the center of the room stood an old wooden chest. Ethan stepped closer. The whispers grew louder. "Help me. Free me." He reached for the chest. It was locked, but the wood was so old that he managed to break it open with a piece of metal. Inside, he found a leather-bound diary. Its pages were yellow, the ink faded, but the words were still readable. Ethan sat on the ground and began to read. The diary belonged to a man named Thomas Gray, the last keeper of the lighthouse. In his final entries, Thomas wrote about strange events, lights that moved on their own, voices in the wind, and shadows in the water. He spoke of a shipwreck that had taken many lives, and how the souls of the drowned seemed to call out to him at night. His last entry ended with a chilling line. "If anyone finds this, know that the sea does not forget. The whispers are real. They are calling me now. I cannot resist any longer." Ethan closed the diary with trembling hands. Suddenly, he felt a rush of cold air. The whispers filled the chamber, louder than ever, surrounding him. He dropped the book and ran up the ladder, slamming the trapdoor shut behind him. The next morning, Ethan told himself it had only been his imagination. But deep inside, he knew it was real. He decided to return to Mrs. Hughes and ask her about the accident. When he mentioned the diary, her face turned pale. She finally told him the story. 30 years ago, she said, a storm destroyed a ship near the coast. Dozens of sailors drowned. The lighthouse keeper, Thomas Gray, was supposed to guide them, but the light went out that night. Some say he failed, others believe something darker happened. A week later, Thomas disappeared. The townspeople searched everywhere but never found him. After that, no one dared to live in the lighthouse again. Ethan listened carefully. His heart was heavy. "But the whispers," he said. "They're still there." Mrs. Hughes looked at him with tired eyes. "Yes. The sea never forgets, and sometimes it speaks through those who are lost." That evening, Ethan returned to the lighthouse, this time determined not to run. He carried the diary with him, hoping it might help him understand. As he entered the underground chamber again, the whispers rose like a tide. "Help us. Remember us." He realized it was not just one voice. It was many, the voices of the drowned sailors. They were not trying to harm him, they were begging him to tell their story, to make sure they were not forgotten. Ethan spoke aloud, his voice echoing in the chamber. "I hear you. I will remember. I will tell the truth." At that moment, the cold air lifted. The whispers softened, fading like the retreating tide. A calm silence filled the chamber. Ethan left the lighthouse and stood on the shore, watching the waves. For the first time since his return, he felt at peace. He knew his grandmother had always wanted him to come back, perhaps because she understood that the past needed someone to carry it forward. The old lighthouse was still broken and abandoned, but in Ethan's heart, it was no longer a place of fear. It was a monument to memory, to lives lost, and to the mysterious power of the sea.